Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm talking about time management. Yeah. One of the questions that I get a lot is how I can be such a productive researcher and also a pretty good instructor and do so much service. If you recall from past videos, when it comes time to being in higher education as an assistant, associate, full professor, at a research university, you typically have three roles: research, teaching, and service, those three things. And if you recall from that video, check that out. My appointment is 50% teaching, 40% research, and 10% service. One of the ways that I try to make all of those things work together and what might look like to other people that I'm really productive or doing a lot of work or a lot of different things is because I integrate those things, meaning that the research that I do helps me with my teaching, the service that I do helps me with my teaching. Um, the research that I do is sometimes related to my service or my teaching. So just for example, in our young adult literature course, we had an interview project trying to understand how practicing teachers used young adult literature in their classroom during the socio-political climate. So all the students conducted interviews, we got an IRB, and then the students and I did data analysis, and we published a research essay, a research article in the Allen Review. So it was class and it was research. So, kind of blending those kinds of things. And then this summer, I was in the Genocide Project Fellowship, and it was a great opportunity to be around incredible educators with global experience and lots of teaching experience as well, who have 20, 30 years in the field and are still invigorated by professional learning. And so I took that opportunity to propose a research study. I wrote an IRB and I'm conducting research related to my fellowship. So I'm trying to connect those things. But the other thing that I tell people when they ask me how I get so much done, number one, it's not about the volume. I'm not trying to win any contest in productivity or anything. I'm just sort of maybe obsessed or maybe a workaholic, but I love those things and I feel compelled to pursue topics of interest to me in the field of education. And I just kind of have this drive to do it. And I don't think about any accolades. I don't think about money. Everything that I do is things that I make are offered for free, and the service is offered for free. And sometimes when I'm preparing something for a presentation or I have to travel, that's when I charge for things. But otherwise, I really try to blend things and do it in service, so the bottom line. The other thing I tell people when they ask me about that is I remind them that I'm not a mother. I don't have children. This is a real fact of life. It's other human beings that you have to take care of and that you have to organize around their schedule. So when you're creating your teaching schedule and research schedule and service schedule and presentation schedule as in higher education, you have to consider your children and your family. And that's just not, the children is not something that I have to think about. However, I do have a partner, and we are going to be married 25 years this year, which is yay to us. We've been together maybe 30 years or more, known each other most of our lives. So I do have a partner, and he also is really supportive, and he loves the work that I do, especially when it's writing a novel. He loves that part more than anything, poetry, and because he likes to hear about what I'm doing. He doesn't like that I'm gone a lot traveling, and he doesn't like that I'm sort of obsessed with projects on weekends, but he's really supportive. And I know when I'm gone too far and I need to kind of dial back, and he also kind of lets me know in nonverbals that I have gone over the edge a little bit. And this is just a pattern for me. Like I'm full force doing things, and then I have to kind of pull back again when I get burned out, and then I'm refreshed and I rev it up again. And it's not intentional. It's just my pattern of work. And I'm sure I have some neurodiversity things going in that are undiagnosed that allow me to kind of have this single-minded focus and then also be focused on a lot of different things. So that's a little bit behind that. But in this video, I'm going to get to it. In this video, I'm going to show you a little bit about how I have organized my time and how I have multiple projects that are varied projects with some are single and some are collaborative, and how I sort of keep track of those things in what's called a pipeline. Now, a pipeline is not something that I came up with, a research pipeline. It's something that I learned in actually one of my interviews, my interview for this job here. I was sitting in the person's office who was the the lead on, I can't think of the word right now, the lead on the recruitment of that position. And I was sitting in her office and I saw this beautiful whiteboard to the side here with all this writing. And I was like, that's a great whiteboard. I wish I had one of those. And she's like, you might be able to have one of those. And I'm like, how does it work? And she said, I just kind of have all the projects in different phases lined up. So that was great. I went to Walmart the first week that I was here with my partner. And actually, it wasn't Walmart, it was Aldi. And we found this big whiteboard and we hung it up in our office. And then it turned out that, COVID started happening and I wasn't at my office very much. And I'm still not there very much. I'm just in this space. So I have this whiteboard in my office at school. I don't use it. So I'm here and I got other whiteboards, but those don't always work the same way. I found that just having a digital whiteboard worked because I could use it wherever I am. So I'm going to show you my digital whiteboard for planning my week and planning my time between teaching, service, and research, and then how I keep track of my pipeline of projects, and show you how I have like kind of multiple projects going on that kind of um, keep my productivity high. And again, it's not about productivity, but this is just a phrase that people use a lot, and it's on the CV, and it's part of your tenure and promotion. Like people want to know if you've been productive. This is a phrase in the field. But the kind of projects that I'm interested in and how I organize them. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of those things. So here is Jamboard, which is sadly is going away, but there's other apps that you can use that will help you organize it in a similar way, or you can even just do this with a slide deck or PowerPoint or something else. And if you're fancy, you have a great whiteboard in your office and you can make something like this. So the first thing is I have a calendar that I kind of plan out a typical week, starting with my teaching, because my teaching is not something that's flexible. So the first thing I do is plop in my teaching, when I have to be in class, when I'm planning, when I have my student hours. So when I look at my calendar, that's like time. I know where I have to be, I know what I have to be doing, and then I kind of work around that. So this is kind of what a typical week looks like for me. I have class usually in the evenings, Monday at 4:30, Tuesday at 6:15. I usually have student hours. Before that, at my university, you have to have about 5 hours of student hours every week. So that's kind of how I have that set up. And then I have planning time on those days as well, which can be a little bit flexible depending on what I need to do. But I really plot that in to make sure that I can respond to feedback, plan for that evening, work maybe even a week ahead about something that I need to do. So as I said, I'm a 50% teaching, so half my time is teaching and the other half is research and service. So I plot that in. So basically I know that Mondays and Tuesdays I'm focused on my teaching. That really helps me because I really am zeroed in on emailing with students and following up with students and checking in on them and making my plans and updating my Canvas, all of that kind of stuff. So that's basically 2 days a week. That's what I'm doing. I also have to have student hours later in the week, and I make those on Thursday and kind of in the middle of the day, and I make that online. And that's typically by appointment, so I can be maybe working on other things and stay home and be like more productive. And the reason I like being home and being productive also is because I can like, as soon as I'm done with this, I can go for a walk and make a smoothie, work a little bit, have another snack, go for another walk, do some yoga, work a little bit. And I can just move that and I don't have to worry about human beings seeing me. Or being professional in appearance. Because if I'm at school and I go to the office on Thursday, then I have to like look a certain way. And if I want to go for like an hour-long walk and come back and be super sweaty because it's 100 degrees in Oklahoma, it just doesn't feel very professional to me. And I have to pack up all that lunch, and that takes a lot of time too. So you see, it's kind of a little bit about efficiency, but like I just don't want to be bothered with those things, like having to shower and like look nice and then packing all my lunch and all of that. So I'm just more, I get a lot more done when I can be at home, but I want to be available for students. And they like that too, because sometimes they're in their car or traveling or in between classes and we can have a quick meeting without them having to come to my office. And then on Fridays, I have two standing meetings with people that I advise with, because that's part of my teaching load, I think, but it's not like a class that I meet with. So I have students who have dissertation hours and honors thesis hours and things like that. So I have that sideways because we meet every other week for about an hour and a half with my honors collaborative group and then with my PhD collaborative group. And then I actually have another student that is in her dissertation writing phase, so I meet with her every week, typically Tuesday afternoons. So I didn't put that in there. Okay, so all the yellow is my teaching responsibility, and now all the things that I do with the research and service kind of go around that. Are you with me so far? All right, so don't get scared. All right, so you probably are a little scared based on what I just showed you. So let me just back up a little bit. Okay. So I have a lot of, projects that I'm doing. This is true. So I have to like find time to meet with people on those projects and work on those projects. So you're going to see a ton of sticky notes here because I can't just plot in my meeting times. I have to plot in time to do the work. Just like with teaching, you plot in your teaching time, but you plot in time to do your planning and your student hours. It's the same for all of the research projects and any kind of service work that I do. I have to plan in my preparation time, and time to think about it and time to check in on it. So this is how I keep track of it because if it's not on my calendar, I might forget about it completely. So I'm going to go back to that, but I just didn't want you to be scared. All right, so here we are. This is what my schedule looks like. Um, Again, we're not at the pipeline yet, but we're just kind of planning in all the different things that I do. Okay, so what you see here, the things that are slanted are things that are not every week. They're things that come up. You also see a color coding guide. So yellow is everything related to teaching. Orange are things related to service. Green are things related to research. And then slanting is that it's like not every week. Okay. So the blue I've added in are like reminders to me to do things for my body and things for fun or just like to move around. And again, I have to plan that into, or sometimes I might get so focused on something that I forget to do those things. So I have to plan those things in. So if you have great friends that you want to see or other activities or classes that you want to take or time to go for a walk or time to get your favorite tea, you should plan those things in. And I just make that blue. So color coding. Okay, so here you see all the blue, and the move for me is like take a walk. I try to take a walk in the morning and take a walk midday. And then I have a time that I meet with my sister on Thursday morning, so that's in there too. The orange are the different organizations. So OKCTE is a state organization. So for a number of years, I was the Young Writers Contest Coordinator. So I plan time to work on that every Wednesday morning, whatever I needed to do related to that. For also the last 5 years, I was the Writers Who Care co-editor. So we had a group. Sometimes we had monthly meetings, which is on there, but also time for me to think about that and work on that and check in on the website and check in on any articles that I was editing or following up with any of the authors. So then you can see, so that's, I consider service. And then CAPE is in there, and that's our accreditation board. So trying to research that, find out what I need to do, organize my materials, really just staying on top of that. Even though that's kind of, a year out, I want to stay on top of that. I'm also part of the Professional Education Council, and that meets typically every other week or every month. So I have that on there just so I don't forget that that might be coming up. And what else? The Young Adult Literature Summit is another service project that I had, organizing that summit every year. So we did not meet, the board and my co-director Gretchen, we didn't meet every week all year. We kind of ramped that up closer to the conference, but I planned time in there to think about that, to follow up with that, so it didn't fall off my radar. There's Faculty Advisory Council, which is a committee that I was on, and that also didn't meet every week. Sometimes I basically met every quarter, every semester. I'm not really sure, but it's on there, so I don't remember. I don't forget to find out when the next meeting is, or at least check my Outlook calendar to make sure that it's there. So that's all the stuff that's in orange. LLC is what our PhD coordinator, our PhD meeting. That's our PhD program. And so we have meetings once a month with that too. So I have those slanted so I don't forget about them. Okay, so what else? Now let's get to the green. So the green has several projects in there that I am paying a lot of attention to. Right now, what you see here is kind of general. It's just whatever research that I need to do. I want to just carve out time on Wednesdays and Thursdays in the morning and in the afternoon, and a little bit on Friday to have research writing time. So I try to block that off so I'm not tempted or feel compelled to follow that with fill that with another meeting or something. So 40% of my job is this research. So I want to protect that time in my calendar to make sure that I'm doing it. So that's what this one looks like. Are you with me so far? Okay, so how are you feeling? What questions do you have at this point? So you might want to like write some comments in 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 the comment section below. Anything that you're wondering about at this point, because I have a little bit more to show you, but I want to kind of take a break because it's kind of a lot of sticky notes in your face, right? So here we have, we've gone through making a calendar, plotting down the times that are non-negotiable, like teaching and student hours, and then going in and plotting in the things that are other committee meetings or service meetings, because those are things also that are not always negotiable that you may not be able to control because someone else is setting those meetings unless you're in charge. So that's in there. And then research, again, carving time to get some of the writing done and the planning done. And now I'm going to show you my pipeline. All right, so here's the pipeline. This is kind of what my colleagues' whiteboard looked like. There was like a section for planning, a section for research, a section for writing, a section for submitted, revisions due, and published. So what this means is this is a typical process if you're doing epistemological like study or something that has like an IRB or research process that goes through literature review, theoretical framework, data gathering, data analysis, findings, the write-up, the submission, waiting for feedback from the article, more revisions, waiting for feedback from the editors, sorry, more revisions, and then waiting for it to end up being published. So this is the process. It's also similar if you're writing a proposal for a conference, which you should see that video. I have a video about that. And it's similar for a book proposal or chapter proposal. There's just like, this is just the general stages of writing. It's not the writing process, but it's kind of close in a way. And you can see that things kind of move along at different paces. So I like to keep track of where everything is at a given time and then move things along as they get toward the publishing part. So I love that. Looking at the publishing section, once I can move everything all the way across, it's very satisfying to put something in that published, and I wait until it's like live and available to the world to put something there. So I'm going to show you the next slide, which is kind of all the things that are in motion, and so this might be helpful for you. Okay, so this is a sample from last year, I think, maybe the year before. So it looks a little bit different now, but I have this on my Jamboard, so I want to show you and talk you through this. Okay. All right, I'm going to move up a little bit so I can see. All right, so planning. About this time of year, it's like September or almost September, we're thinking about conference seasons. So we have the affiliate conference, Oklahoma Council of Teachers of English, the national conference, National Council of Teachers of English. Oklahoma is usually in October, NCTE is usually in November, LRA is usually in December, and so those are conference proposals. So now I have a different color coding system here. Did you see? Different color coding system. So the blue are conferences. So you can see, I'm planning for my OKCTE conference. I'm planning for the February summit. I should have planning for NCTE. I'm planning to submit those. That means I haven't done that yet. So those are in there. Orange means I'm planning to do reviews. I'm waiting. I haven't done anything yet. Orange are like book reviews or article reviews or editorial reviews that I'm doing. Green is research that I'm working on. I think that's every, and pink is practitioner. Okay, so I'm differentiating between the green, which is our research articles, and the pink, which are practitioner articles. For whatever reason, like some universities don't see those things as equal. I mean, in some ways they are, in some ways they aren't. Practitioner means they're things that we're doing in our class. They're lessons, units, reflections related to teaching. And it doesn't mean I need an IRB or I'm gathering a whole bunch of data and doing analysis. So those are also typically shorter, maybe a couple thousand words. The green are things that I'm doing with data collection. So I typically have an IRB. I have to plan my study. I have to submit an IRB. I have to wait for IRB approval. In the meantime, I'm writing a literature review, and then I have to recruit participants, and then I have to conduct interviews and then analyze the data, all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of steps. So that's why we're differentiating between green, which is a research article, and pink, which is a practitioner article. So you can see I have some things in the research stage, meaning I'm gathering permissions, I'm gathering literature review, I'm doing some gathering of participants, and these are several of the studies that I'm working on. In the preparing piece, in the writing, I was working on an article, two research articles, which meant that we already had our data collection and we were starting to work on findings and writing up the manuscript. So we're doing data analysis while we're kind of working on preparing the manuscript. And then, let's see. And then you can see what's submitted in green are all articles, research articles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 research articles that I submitted to a journal, and I was just waiting on them. So 6 things that are in the pipeline waiting for editorial review or peer review or something. They're just sitting there, as well as 3 practitioner pieces. We're just kind of waiting there, and I don't want to forget about them, but it could be a couple months, it could be a year before I hear back from those editors or journals. So they just kind of sit there while I'm preparing other things. Then in the next column, I have revisions due and revisions done with that little, you can maybe see that little word done. So here we have things that I have been received feedback on from a journal and revisions that were requested. And so that's where the green, we've done those revisions, either me and a partner, and then we've resubmitted them. So now we're waiting again. So it's, instead of having another submitted, instead of going back to submitted, we're moving it along because it's getting closer to the publisher. So this is probably a sign that it's accepted, and they're now preparing the manuscript with some additional revisions and editing before it gets to the publishing. And then you can see all the nice things that got into publishing, or things that might have been rejected. So not published, but rejected, and I don't want to like put them away yet because I might have to like revisit them. And then on the bottom, all those letters in yellow are just reminders that I'm checking in with my doctoral students, so I wanted to keep them on my pipeline because they are also in their own pipeline. Some of them are writing literature reviews, some of them are working on their proposals, some of them are working on exams, and so these are the people that I'm kind of keeping track of in their pipeline as well. The other thing I want to point out for you is like in almost all of the sticky notes, you see an initial. And that means that these are collaborative projects. So it's not just something that I'm doing alone. I'm doing with other people. And so that's where we meet during my research time, or we all have different kind of jobs that we're working on related to the article or the manuscript that we're kind of dividing and conquering. And so this kind of diversifies the different projects. So you can see, EJ with C is one practitioner article, another EJ practitioner article. OEJ is a practitioner article I was actually working on with three teachers. There's an article I was working on with Amy and Eileen, which has now been published, moving along. The young adult literature educator data analysis, I was working on that with a bunch of undergraduate students who are fantastic. Dr. Ajay and I were working on a study related to the tutoring that we were doing in our tutoring program, collaboration between Upward Bound and the Reading and Math Center, and that was submitted. So these are things that, we are just kind of working on a little bit at a time and moving them along this pipeline. All right, how are you feeling? So I've shared with you my calendar, protected time, my pipeline, um, a little bit about how I am, my disposition as a thinker and a writer and a researcher, and the things that are really important to me in my work. So at this point, I don't know if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're inspired or you want to like get a Jamboard going or a big whiteboard going to start like plotting out your projects. But this is just a little insight into how I'm managing my time and thinking about moving projects along toward from different stages. So I can't have everything in a writing stage. That's too much. So once things kind of move into a submission phase, it frees up some of my time. So now I can take on something new related to writing or start a new IRB. Or I can have a couple things under IRB, a couple things that are in the recruiting, and then I can start scheduling some things for interviews and then put off interviews for another project a little bit later. So there's just some decisions that you have to make, but you kind of have a couple things going at the same time. They're just in different phases, and it helps you organize them better if you kind of can set up your pipeline with real or digital sticky notes. So I hope all of that's been helpful for you. If it is, like, please follow and comment and let me know how things are going for you. And, we'll see you next time.